Yay. Hello, welcome everyone. This is Amy, the Mystic Rose Tarot. I have been having some technical issues. Luckily, I can sort of figure it out. But for some reason, YouTube is not allowing me to either record a segment or do a live on my own channel. So this happened last week when I wanted to do my Mystic Moon Mondays. So I need to troubleshoot that a little bit more with YouTube. I don't know what's going on. But thank you, StreamYard, for being there for situations like this so I can fall back on this software program and use to record and also to do lives. So with that aside, I want to wish everyone who is watching this and a happy Imbolc, Candlemas today. And I will be doing a special video this evening to share with you on YouTube to honor the first light of spring. Spring traditionally is known to take place around the third week of March for the spring equinox. But in many practices, particularly Wiccan and pagan practices, Imbolc is honoring the goddess Bridget and welcoming longer days, sun intensity. So I will be talking more about that this evening and doing a reading specifically to bring in and welcoming in this Sabbath of Imbolc. So today, I'm here to talk to you about second Decan for the month of Aquarius, which is 10 to 20 degrees. And I've been using, if you've been watching my Decan readings, I've been using one card to give the foundation of what the Decan is all about. And then I have two supporting cards from different decks to represent the minor arcana that is of each Decan. So each week, each Decan, every 10 days, the sign stays the same. So we're in the month of Aquarius, but what changes is the planetary placement. Now the planetary interpretation will vary because there's a few decks that are out there. Hi, Kavita. Thank you for joining me. There are various systems that incorporate the astrological correspondences, like the Golden Dawn correspondences. They recognize each astrological month, but the planet placement is different. And here I'm working with the Unified Esoteric Tarot, where they don't follow. The creator doesn't use the Golden Dawn correspondences. The creator, Attila, has his own system. So it's going to deviate, it's going to be a little bit different, but I like to explore all these different interpretations of the astrological planets, signs, and placements in relation to the tarot, because you get more of a deeper insight into what the meaning of that Decan is by that creator, and also the relationship of the minor arcana. So to go right into it, I have notes. So if you see me glance up, I'm looking at my notes that I have specifically for all my Decan readings. So let's jump into it. This is for the Decan of January 30th. I'm a few days behind, to February 8th. And again, a Decan normally represents around, depending on who's creating the deck, anywhere between 7 to 10 days. Decan normally represents 10, so ideally it's 10, but with the Unified Esoteric Tarot, the days are just a little shorter. So this is the card for January 30th for guidance to February 8th. And then from February 8th February 9th into the next 10 days, we'll wrap up the last Decan, 20 to 30 degrees in Aquarius, and it'll be in a different planet. I don't like to jump too ahead for the last decade, I like to focus on this. I just want to give a general overview so that you have some sort of idea what the decans are. So with this deck, again, this is the Unified Esoteric Tarot. The creator has the placement of Mercury in Aquarius. Hi, Julianne. And the card that is representing this decan is the Six of Swords. And I am, coincidentally, we are currently retrograding Mercury in the sign of Aquarius, and we are in the sun sign of Aquarius. So we have just a little bit of holding on to what's happening at this moment. So the way I'm going to break this down is I'm going to give a general overview. This will probably be like a 20-minute video, and relate the two cards the two decks I normally work with the Six of Swords in relation to the Unified Esoteric Tarot. Okay, so we have Mercury in Aquarius, and the key word that comes with this card is departure. Now, when you look at the Six of Swords, and I'll jump into that in a moment, but when you look at the Six of Swords, we are seeing a transition from a situation that was a challenge, that was of imbalance. And Aquarius rules the element of air. It is thoughts, it is intellect. So when we go into that Six of Swords, I'm going to talk more about this card in a moment, but when we move into the Six of Swords, we're seeing a time of transition, a time of inner reflection, but really think about our thoughts. What did we not do? What did we not think properly through that caused the conflict, that caused the disruption? What actions did we take in our mind that just wasn't correct and causes us to take a moment to stop, really reassess what happened, and then to move on. Now, you can also use the Six of Swords as a way of also running away from the situation, and that's not at all ideal. You can run away environmentally, physically from your situation, but your thoughts are with you. You can't run away from your thoughts. They will always be with you. And that's a premise, I feel, with the Six of Swords. You really have to make peace with choices, decisions that took place that led you to be in that position of Six of Swords. And once you've made peace with that, I feel you can move, I don't want to say gracefully, but you can move more with a calmer conscience, knowing that you've dealt with that situation and you're able to go ahead and look towards something better. You learn from the experiences. The transitions from fives in any of the suits into six are transitional periods. There are times of conflict, challenges, loss, emotional, heart loss. It's a time to move on. And so the six is that transition. So going back to here, the departure is a perfect word for this. But again, I don't want to use the departure as running away. Departure is taking a form of responsibility of what has taken place. Look at it, as I mentioned. Look at the situation on all different sides. Analyze it, break it down, and then make peace with it. And then it is safe to move on. So during this decan for January 30th to February 8th, if there is something that's going on that's a challenge, and like I said, we are currently Mercury in Aquarius retrograde, this is a perfect time. This is just a good time to not so much worry about technical issues, communication breakdowns. That's part of it. But for the most part, really assess what's going on at this moment. This is a time when anything's retrograde, you really don't want to take action. You kind of want to hold off, and depending on the sign and the planet placement, it's a time just to kind of hold back. It's similar to our waning moon right now. And as we're losing light, as anything is retrograding, things are not moving in the normal fashion. They're not moving forward. They're moving slower. We're getting less light with the moon. I'm combining two different interpretations. Just slow down and assess everything that's going on. Again, Mercury deals with communication, intellect, how we see things, how we communicate in so many different ways. And Aquarius is the sign of the forward thinker, thinking about other people. What can be done better? What can we change to make things move in a better direction for everyone? So take this time right now just to really slow down and just reassess. And today being in bulk, I think it's a wonderful way to bring in light into a situation that could be of imbalance. So let's go ahead and just move right into the Six of Swords. I have two cards here. These are the cards that so far they've been working the best with me when combining these readings. And it's the Lumina Tarot. This is the Lumina Tarot and the Tarot of the Holy Light. So what's interesting is I haven't pulled this card in a while in a reading. And I just realized, since I'm working specifically with the Six of Swords energy, because I live up in the mountains, I immediately saw the trees. But what's interesting is at the surface level, I did not see these six swords. I just saw the beauty and the serenity of the trees and the cosmic universe, the stars, the clouds in the distance as they're opening up for clarity. But I did not see six swords, and they're different swords. We have a saber, we have different stylings of swords here. And all these different swords represent different energies of these styles of swords. So again, with the Six of Swords in relation to the Lumina Tarot, this is just a time, as I mentioned, since we're already in a retrograde period, is a time just to calm our thoughts. Let's really assess what's going on consciously, how we're thinking. It's a time to literally stop, think, and release what has challenged you and is causing difficulties in understanding what the situation is. You don't want to keep moving if there's still a lot of conflict going on. You need to really stop and assess. If you keep moving, you're going to be causing these swords to cause more of an imbalance, more of an unclarity in the situation. And eventually these elements, the air, the thoughts will go deeper. They will be harder to understand and harder to remedy. So again, as I mentioned, reassess what's going on. Look within yourself. Your mind's actually calling yourself out. You just made some choices that weren't in the best of interest to yourself and everyone. Stop and really think about what was done. Check in within yourself and allow yourself the space to forgive and to move on to a clearer perspective. Okay? And also here, as we see here in the cards, there's no action. These swords are hilted right into the mound of the mountains, into the mound of the earth. And that lack of movement is giving you that moment of solace in the mind. And here we have the clarity. We have the celestial. This is the cosmos, the universe. This is what we're trying to connect with. So by putting our swords down, having that moment of silence, and literally looking up, letting your mind to stop chatting so much, chatting monkeys. Let it stop and let this open up. Let this realm above us open up so that we can see things in a better perspective. Hello, Michelle Antero. I'm doing good. I hope you, Julianne, Kavita, everyone is doing wonderful today. If you do celebrate in bulk, I hope you are doing something very special. I don't have a lot of light today, but I have clouds, but bright light, and that's wonderful for me. So our second Six of Swords. Okay, this is with the Tarot of the Holy Light. Julianne, Victoria, and myself have been working together on the suits, and we're working through this deck at a seasonal manner. So we will be reconvening in the springtime to talk about wands and their energy. But here we have the Six of Swords. And here the placement is different. We see Saturn in Aquarius. I don't want to talk so much about that because I want to focus more on the meaning of the Six of Swords through the Tarot of the Holy Light. So here, what's interesting with the Tarot of the Holy Light's version of the Six of Swords, let me move my fingers up here a little bit. This card is titled The Navigator. When I was reading through the book and looking at this card, we are the navigators. When you think about it, when you look at that Six of Swords, there are many different depictions, but ideally we see the boat, we see an individual either by themselves. We can't tell if it's masculine, feminine. There's sometimes a child with it, but it's dealing with moving away from the situation, or maybe moving towards it. Okay, so here I want to explore two different perspectives. Here, we're not certain if the boat is moving in towards the swords, into this little cove-like opening, if the swords were actually the guides to bring this boat in. The boat here is us. We are the vessel. We are body, mind, and soul. This is what this represents. This represents us as an entity. So here we have this one perspective. We possibly made the right choices. We followed our intellect. We made right choices. And in doing so, it pulled us into safety from whatever was challenging us at that time. Or it could be quite the opposite. I'm sorry, I have the card in my face, but I would like people to just look at the card while I'm talking. Or the swords could be what's left behind. These are the choices that we made, and they weren't in the best of interests. So it's almost a form of similar to here. Okay, the swords are stationary. They're put in the ground. They're actually moving into the water. So we can see this as a merging between the mind and the deeper realms of our unconscious. So maybe this is the opposing situation. This is the volatility that we're leaving behind, and we're going out into the sea. And here we have the eagle of wisdom, could be the phoenix rising from the flames. We have the sun to represent a brighter perspective on what's ahead. If we carefully navigate the direction of what we do in our lives. We don't make great choices. Sometimes we make bad choices as well. We are responsible for everything that we've done in our lives. And we have to be held accountable for this. The other thing that's very important is when it comes to the Six of Swords, especially with this card, we have to take into effect the timing. Okay, because as you see with the Six of Swords, we have this vessel. It's in the water, it's in the lake, it's in the ocean. Here the waters are calm. And this can also represent a time of waiting, okay, because there's no movement in the water. We've made our choices either for the better or for the good. The better that we decide to follow good choices into a safe area so the boat could be moving in, or we've made not the best choices, or we're moving away from it. But at this point, we're just sort of floundering. We're just sort of waiting for the next ebb and flow, the next current of air, wind, water to move us. And that applies to us as well. We have to listen to ourselves and what feels right. So we've made a choice. We're either moving away or we're moving towards safety. But then what happens next? We have to create some sort of ripple, some sort of movement to guide us into the next direction, which will lead us into the Seven of Swords. What is the best choice that you can make from following and listening to your inner self? Listen to our inner currents. Where are we leaning a little bit more towards and a little bit less of? If we're moving towards something that feels right, move towards it. The other aspect too here is astrologically, we see Saturn in two signs, Saturn in Aquarius, which is in its upright position, and then Capricorn. Both of these contain opposing energies. One is practical, and the other one is rational. Okay? So Saturn in Aquarius is one that is, hello Debbie, thank you for joining. Saturn in Aquarius deals with ideas. How we would see the situation. How can we really change the situation so that it could empower you as an individual? And in turn, that empowerment can influence everyone else. The other one is Saturn in Capricorn. Okay, Aquarius is an air sign. Capricorn is earth. Capricorn, Saturn is discipline, limitations, restrictions, karmic actions. All of those play an influence in this card. Remember what I was saying with the Six of Swords? Swords involves thoughts, actions of the mind. What did we do here? What choice did we make here? Creating that discipline. Capricorn being practical with the situation. They're seeing it for what it is and making their choices wisely because of that. Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn has that discipline where they have these ideas. You know, they know what can be done for the better, but they just have to put a foundation around it. They have to put some form to it so it's better directed. So Saturn in Aquarius can ultimately be this attribute. This is the outcome of all the ideas that you had, radical ways of seeing things, but you put it in a clear perspective. Aquarius can be in that position of the sun, where it actually comes out. You see the outcome of it, and everyone benefits from it. So again here, the Six of Swords, where's this energy coming from? What choices did we make? We're moving away from the situation, or did we make a wise choice to move closer into a safe environment for the time being, to really look at things in a better environment? So I feel with the Six of Swords, use these cards, the influence of the Six of Swords, as a form of self-guidance, trusting yourself when moving away, releasing a personal conflict. The mind has been exhausted, the body has been exhausted, the spirit has been exhausted with with some really intense difficulties in some situations. But by bringing attention, moving that energy from the conscious part, from the mind part, to the inner side of who we are, you're able to acknowledge that and come from a stable environment. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create our inner selves as a safe haven. We've made peace with our mind. Now we have to deal with what's happened inside from the result of those choices. Trust in the guidance that you're following, that you will be in a better place. Take the time that is needed to achieve this awareness. It's not going to happen immediately, but if you really acknowledge what's going on in this situation, and letting go of those thoughts, and being open to taking that time to really make peace with the situation and to move on from it, then you are in a better situation to heal and to move. I want to show really quickly the card that was the previous Decan, 0 to 10 degrees. The card that we had 10 decans ago was detachment. Very similar, detachment, departure, but in this case, it was Uranus and Aquarius in relation to the Unified Esoteric Tarot. And the card of influence was the 5 of Swords, which I will show here. So it's actually what's interesting with this particular card for the Tarot of the Holy Light. The 5 of Swords dealt more with strategy and trying to understand how your opponent, how the situation that you're being challenged from, how you can learn from it. It could be a challenge dealing with a friendship, a business situation. Don't find it as a threat. Find that challenge as something to learn from. Anything that we have fear of, anything that we feel that we have to, kind of be protective from, also learn from the other side. Understand what that threat, if you want to call it that, what that conflict is all about, and how that situation is being placed upon you. It's like you almost have to switch roles and go into the mind and body of that opposing energy to understand it. And by understanding it, you almost become more empowered than that person because you're understanding the perspective. You're seeing the perspective of what's going on, of what your opponent is. And this can also be within ourselves, our inner demons, our negative side, our black side. Try to understand, why things become more heavy and things are so hard to become light. Because we allow that. But we have to understand, why do we allow things to become so weighted down? That's a weakness within ourselves. I have it. I'm not immune from it. We all have it. So with the previous decan of detachment, it's wanting you to separate yourself from that challenge and seeing it from an outsider looking in, and then actually going in, experiencing that situation from the other perspective, learning from it, and then you can learn and move on what not to do, on how to avoid a potential conflict. That takes a lot of practice, that takes a lot of self-discipline, but it is doable. So yes, with the 6 of Swords, I feel the key words is trusting ourselves, but also, following our inner guidance. They're hand in hand, self-trust and guidance. You gotta have that trust before you can move forward. Believe in yourself, have faith in yourself. I'm sorry, I keep pulling this card up because it looks like where I live right now at the moment. without the swords. So that's for this week, January 30th to February 8th, Mercury in Aquarius, Decan for this week. And I need to point out that the astrological signs and the planet placements, these are fixed for this particular deck as an individual guide. And as you see here, Saturn in Aquarius, it has a different Decan placement. This is the interpretation for this deck in particular. So that's what I was mentioning earlier. There are decks that are out there. I have one other deck that follows a completely different system. So I wouldn't recommend to mix all these different decks that have different astrological planets and signs and correspondences. If you want to explore that, explore each deck individually. Get to know the characteristics and the understanding as to Mercury in Aquarius, the key word of departure. Also want to point out the opposing side of this is narrow-mindedness. So not being fully open-minded towards a situation and only seeing things in this situation, only seeing that conflict, feeling sorry for yourself, not doing anything, being stagnant, and only seeing the negative. That's the opposing aspect for Six of Swords. Okay, we don't want to be in that situation, or if you are currently in that situation, you need to open up and really look at things. When things are narrow, things are closed. You're not having space. You're not allowing any air. You're not letting any movement to come in. You're not letting any light. And those are forms of energies that you need to open up that narrow-mindedness, that narrow aspect. You have to give a little bit to let that energy come in and to guide you to see things in a better situation. So that's the opposing quality that you can have if you get this card in a reading. So departure is, I like to change the word a little bit, but departure is ultimately coming to terms with what just happened and moving on. Or you've already moved on, and like I was saying here, these swords could be guiding you into a different environment where you have the space, you have the clarity, excuse me, you have the clarity to work on the next thing that you need to heal from. So it's entirely up to each and every one of us, our choices that we make. So that's the message that I have here with Mercury in Aquarius for this Decan. Again, January 30th to February 8th. I'll be back on either February 9th or 10th to wrap up the last Decan, the last week of Aquarius. And then we get ready to go into Pisces. Okay, we are now in the last two signs of the astrological wheel of the year. And then come spring, March, we started up with Aries, fiery energy. But we will discuss that. I will discuss that with all of you when the time comes. And want to see anything else here that I need to add. One other thing to point out is with Mercury in Aquarius, we find that there's a need to transcend into another realm, to leave old ways of thinking, old attitudes, traditional ways of thinking that just no longer serve us. And the term departure in this card is using the intellect. Remember I was saying the opposite of narrow-mindedness is using the intellect in a broader sense to explore what is beyond the horizon. So let's start looking ahead. If we're if anyone's in a Six of Swords, situation at the time. Let's move on. Let's use Mercury in Aquarius as a time to, while it's in retrograde, to really look about things, look within ourselves. I keep saying that in a lot of the lives that I do. It is all about looking within, because we can't look within and find what's really troubling us. It's going to be difficult to move out. So we need to have that space. We need to create the space. We need to create the space for light to come in so that we can start moving on. And it's just so important. So that's it. I will be back again, as I said, February 9th, 10th, to continue the last part of the Decan, 20 to 30 degrees for the month of Aquarius. And also later on this night, this evening, in case you missed out, at 6:30 Pacific Standard Time, I will be doing a special reading for Imbolc. And I have a little setup here. Hopefully it's going to work lighting-wise. So if you could join me this evening, I will be talking about Imbolc, the energy that we have as it ushers us into the last time of winter as we go into spring. So I will share that with each and every one of you. Thank you, Julianne Victoria, for checking in. You're such a supportive soul and a beautiful spirit. Thank you for always being there. Marianne Tarot, thank you so much for taking part in the discussion, saying hello to everyone. Debbie 777, thank you for coming in as well. Kavita Binda, thank you as always. As I mentioned, I want to keep this short because it's just a quick reading. And if you could join me this evening, 6:30 Pacific Standard Time, that would be great. For those who are watching this after the end of this broadcast, feel free to leave comments. I am so happy to share this information with you. And I'd like to get feedback as well. So have a wonderful Monday, February 1st. I know I'm 2 days late with this, but it's totally fine as long as I get the reading out there for people to enjoy. And many blessings to each and every one of you for Imbolc on this day. I will see you later on, and thank you again. All the information for my channel, for my website, it's all in the description. I will see you hopefully later on this evening, if not next time soon.